Thank you for joining our Halloween Pumpkin Build-Along. This build-along requires no 3D modeling experience. Just follow along and you'll be able to create the pumpkin you see here before you. For this design, we're going to use TinkerCAD, which is a free online platform which you can use from your home computer and requires no installation of software. You will, however, need to create a free account, which you can do at tinkercad.com/join. And to do that, all you'll need is an email address and your birthday. Once you're finished with your pumpkin design, you can email your saved STL files to innovation@nationalcitylibrary.org, and we'll print them up on our Tech Labs 3D printers, and we'll contact you when they're ready for pickup. So if we're all ready, we'll go ahead and get started with our design. So what we're going to do is, when we're at tinkercad.com, we're going to click on Sign In, then we'll click on Email or Username, and then we'll enter our email. Hit Next, and enter the password. And then we're going to be taken to our dashboard. From there, we'll click on Create New Design, and this will take us to the design environment. The first thing we'll do while we're in here is change the auto-generated file name. And then we're going to view our work plane at an angle. So you can click up here in the corner where it's highlighted blue. And then we're going to drag an egg over to the work plane for our first shape. So what we need to do is click on where it says Basic Shapes, click on Characters, and then scroll down until you see Egg. Click and hold down on the egg and drag it over to the work plane and let go. The next step is, while you have this highlighted, which you'll know because it's in blue and in a square, hold the Shift key down and then click on the rotation icons, the two arrows, and when you do that, you'll rotate it to negative 90 degrees. And I'm zooming in and out by using my scrolling wheel on my mouse, but you can also use the plus or minus signs to zoom in and out. So the next step is to drop the egg down. So if we click and hold down with our left click button on this red and black cone, move your mouse down till you see it say 0.00. The following steps can be a little tricky, but just try to follow along as best as you can and you shouldn't have any problems. So what we're going to do next is duplicate the egg. So let's click up here to get a head-on view, and again we have our egg selected, but if it's not, it won't be highlighted. So let's click on the egg and then click on Duplicate. And it didn't really look like it did anything, but what you'll see next is the offset version of it. So again, we'll hold Shift down, click on the two arrows and rotate this 45 degrees. And then next we're gonna click the arrow right key, click that 6 times, and then we're going to press the forward arrow key 3 times. And now after that, we're going to go back to the duplicate button and hit that 6 times. And so as you can see, we now have the basic form of our pumpkin. Now if you clicked a few other times in between some of those steps, it probably wouldn't have duplicated the right way. So you may have to click undo a couple of times to make sure you get it right. Now that we have all of our pumpkin shapes, we're going to group them together, and we'll left click in the upper corner, hold it down, and then drag this red box around your pumpkin. And then we're going to click up here on Group. And what that did was make your pumpkin all one piece, not 8 individual eggs. The next step is to duplicate our pumpkin shape, and we'll do that by clicking on the pumpkin, clicking the duplicate icon. Again, it won't look like anything happened, but if you click on the pumpkin and move it to the side, you'll see that we have 2 pumpkins now. Next step is to turn the second one into a hole. And what I mean by hole is it serves as a negative space that when combined with a solid, which this first one is, it'll cut away from it. So what we're going to do is resize it now so it's going to be smaller than the original pumpkin. We're going to hold the shift key down and change this from 77 millimeters down to 70 or close to it. It doesn't have to be exact. And next we're going to align both of them so they're centered on each other. So we'll click and hold down above the second pumpkin, make sure both of them are in the red square. Now they're both highlighted, and we'll click on the align button. And then we're going to align them on all 3 axes. From there we'll hit group. And again, it won't look like anything happened, but I assure you, your pumpkin is now hollow, and we'll start to see that evidence in the next few steps. The next step, we're going to drag a cylinder over, and the cylinder will serve as our stem for the pumpkin. If you hold your shift button down and click on the corner square, you'll see that it says 20 millimeters. As we move it in, we're going to target 12 millimeters. Go ahead and let go. The next step is to raise this stem up to 40 millimeters. So you'll do this by clicking on the black and red cone, holding it down, and raising it up till you see the number 40. Next step is to align both the pumpkin and the stem. So again, click and hold down and grab both objects so they're in the square. Click the align button, and then we're just going to do these on the bottom 2 axes. So click the center node here and the center node here. And then we're going to group both of these. Give it a few seconds to process. And now you see it's one consistent color. So now comes the fun part where we get to carve out our pumpkin. So let's again take this to the front view. And what we're going to do for the eyes is use this roof, which is a triangle. Drag this over. And let's say we want 2 eyes. While we have the triangle selected, we'll click duplicate. And then we'll just hit the right arrow and move it over. I'm not going to give you a specific dimension, just space it out to where you see fit. We're going to grab both of the 2 triangles with the red square, and then we're going to group these together. And then we'll also turn them into holes. We're going to align this with the pumpkin, and you're probably not going to notice a major difference, but let's go through the process anyway and click the align button, and then click on this bottom node in the center. And they moved a bit, not much. Next step is we're going to click on the eyes, click on the black and red cone, hold down on it, and raise it till you see 28 millimeters. After that, we're going to push the up arrow until you see the eyes completely buried into the pumpkin with a little sticking out, and then we'll select everything and group them. And once this processes, you'll see that the pumpkin is in fact hollow. You'll be able to see inside of it, as you can see now. The next step is to create a mouth, and we're going to use that with the round roof. So drag a round roof over to the work plane. If we place this as is, we would see the pumpkin frowning, which we don't want. So what we're going to do is rotate it 180 degrees. So let's hold the shift button down, and click on the arrows and rotate it 180 degrees. Now we have a smiley face. What we're going to do next is get a better view and click down and hold on to the black square and drag it till you see 40 millimeters. We'll change this to a hole, and then we're going to select everything, and then we're going to align this so the smile will be centered with the pumpkin. Click on just the mouth, and we're going to raise this as well to 10 millimeters. And then we'll press the up arrow until we see it completely buried into the pumpkin. Next, we'll grab everything and group it. All right. Now, if you're happy with the way your pumpkin looks, you can stop here and send us your file and we can print it up. But if you want to continue on, we'll go over the steps on how to cut the top off, so this will be a pumpkin that you can actually lift the lid off of. Okay, so unfortunately there's no easy way to slice an object in two in TinkerCAD, so we have to go about it in a roundabout way. So the first step is to, while you have your pumpkin selected, click duplicate. Again, it doesn't look like it did anything, but if you move it over to the side, you'll see that we have two pumpkins. We will next drag a cylinder over to the work plane, and we're going to resize that to 80 millimeters. So hold the shift key and then click and hold down with one of the corners, drag it outward until you see 80 millimeters. Okay, and let go. Next, we'll reduce the size from 80 millimeters to 55. So for this, you do not hold the shift key down, just left click up here and then drag it down till you see 55. And then let go. Next step is to drag a cone over, and similarly we're going to resize this to 80 millimeters. So hold the shift key down, click the corner and drag it until you see 80. We're going to reduce the height to 30 millimeters, and again, do not hold the shift key down, just click and hold down on the top square, then drag that down till you see 30. So we'll then rotate the cone so it's 180 degrees. So hold the shift key down, click and hold down on the two arrows, and rotate it until you see 180 degrees. Next step is to raise this cone up to 25 millimeters. So click and hold down on the black and red cone and raise it up till you see 25. Go ahead and let go. Next, we're going to duplicate this because we'll want two cones. So click, duplicate, and then move it over to the side. And then we'll make both of these cones holes. So while you have one selected, hold the shift key down and select the other cone. And with both of them selected, click the hole button. Next, we're going to click on the cylinder and this first cone, hold the shift key down and click on it, and we're going to align them. So click align, click the center node down here, and click the second center node, and then with both of them selected, we're going to group them together. And that will have cut a cone shape into the cylinder. Now we're going to change this cylinder into a hole as well. Next, we're going to select both the pumpkin and the cylinder. So hold shift down, click the first pumpkin, and now that they're both selected, we're going to align those two. And we'll click on the center node on the bottom here, and the center node on the bottom here. And then we're going to group these two. Alright, so now we have just the top. We're going to do the same thing with the second pumpkin. So click on the pumpkin, click on the second cone, click Align, we'll click this center node here, and this center node, and then with them both selected, we'll hit Group. Alright, so now we have a bottom and a top piece. You can select both the pumpkin parts, and then you can align those, center and center, and now you see that we have a pumpkin with a top that'll lift off. And that's all there is to it. If you want to have a bit of fun, you can also select both the parts, click on solid, and you can change the color to, let's say, orange. I've also recently seen pumpkins that are green and even like a grayish blue color, kind of like this. But for just traditional sake, let's do orange. And if you're all done with your pumpkin, we'll go ahead and save it. But before doing so, we'll take the top of the pumpkin and move it down to the ground next to it. So we'll move it down until we see 0. And then we'll go to Export, and we'll make sure everything in the design is selected. We'll click on STL. This will save down here. After a few seconds, as you can see, our pumpkin file is here in an STL file. Once you have that, you can attach it to an email and again send it to innovation@nationalcitylibrary.org. And once we receive this file, we'll print it up on our 3D printers and we'll notify you when it's ready for pickup. If you would like to learn more about how to use TinkerCAD, they have great self-paced tutorials on their website, which can be accessed at tinkercad.com/learn/designs. I hope you enjoyed this build along, and happy Halloween!